Good morning. It's been a while that I created a video to show you around and tell you about what's happening. The thing is, not a whole lot of things is happening. So we have some restrictions or limitations to overcome. And once that has been achieved, then things will be moved again. And so we are sitting tight for the moment, and then we will spring into action once we can afford to do so. But that does not mean that we are doing nothing. It's only that the things that we can do cannot be shown in a video. Our thinking and planning process or drawing stuff in SketchUp is not so interesting to watch, and also getting quotes for certain jobs from potential suppliers or contractors is also not something that is suitable for filming. So speaking about that, for example, this morning we have been in touch with people who might finish this job here. So I'm referring to this wall. This is supposed to become the future dock enclosure, and we want a contractor to come in to put the fence on this wall and also build the remaining part of this wall so that this whole thing gets fully enclosed. It is supposed to have a 2-meter high fence that is bent inwards, so that in any case any dog that definitely wants to get out will not be able to. It should be a physical barrier, not an electric one, in the tiny enclosure where they currently are, because I have to manage them a little bit when I go out and come back. So in the tiny enclosure over there, there is some electric wire that's hot, and they know about it, so they won't jump out, but there's always some risk. And these dogs are not the extremely trained type of a puppy or a working dog. They are basically following their instincts, and if they had been imprinted on, for example, sheep, then they would live with that flock of sheep. But we don't do that. We don't have these sheep, and so we missed that boat. It doesn't matter. They are still nice to us, and to everybody else they are a problem, but that's the problem of them. So it doesn't really matter what other people think, because their job is to guard the farmyard and us, and what anybody else around might think, this is not of their business. So as long as everybody understands and respects that, we are cool. But in the case of visitors, which we are going to have, and quite a lot, we don't want the visitors and these dogs to mix and mingle, because then either they lose their instinct, so they will have a challenge to understand who is an intruder and who is not. Not that I'm very worried, but I'm explaining this a little bit. And the visitors might also be afraid of the dogs, because they are not little puppies. So the dog enclosure will be finished, and our intention is to do this in parallel with Angel and me working over there on some sort of an open barn in order to have more solar panels, get them away from this place. So these will have a different purpose. We will install new ones to have a lot more power, and then Sakahawea over there can then also move to a nicer place where it is also easier to harvest the compost she's making. So that is something what Angel and I are working on in the background. And I am also working on a series of videos of a different kind to explain what we did, what did work, what does not work, where the challenges are, how to overcome them, or how to pivot. So I'm working on this, and I'm actually scripting a little bit so that I understand what I need to explain. And it will be not like right now with me just walking about and talking to the back of the camera while I show you something. So speaking about showing, so you can see this has grown very nicely. So now that they get water via a drip irrigation with little sprinklers, so it's more water than just dripping, and the temperatures are more in a more moderate range. So for example, today it's supposed to be 30 plus a bit and not 35 and more. Makes a huge difference. All these things grow in a more orderly fashion. There is one that is yellowing a little bit, and somehow the irrigation does not work very well there in this area. So these two there at the beginning, they always struggle. But on the other hand, they are supposed to make roots and find the water in the soil. But then, if the soil is dry, up to 3.5 meters, there is nothing in there. And it's not even moist anymore, I would think, because we had rain and you saw it in the video, and then until today we had nothing. So that is again the same game. But supposedly now that we have entered October, soon there should be more and more sustained rain. So I'm hoping for that. And here in the farmyard we can irrigate with the little bit of irrigation that we have available. I wish we had those wobblers already, but I am holding off a little bit because it makes no sense to spend some effort on that and then be busy and have to abandon it, because the more important thing is that roof the open barn for the solar panels and to get this place turned into the actual dog enclosure. That is at the moment the priority as I see it, because we've been lacking a little bit of power, electricity, and with these additional panels, and I am talking about quite a lot, then these problems will go away. So far we have been managing this the whole time, but I don't want to think about power and not do power management myself all the time. So I want to resolve this and also have enough power generation so that we can switch to an electric car, which is another thing. And then things become a little bit nicer. So here we have some tomatoes, and I have to say we have a lot of tomatoes. They have shown up in many different places. So these are the ones that kind of self-seeded, because here in this spot where you can see the remnants of the charcoal, a little bit there in the shadow, but now so you can see that this is where that humanure pile stood. So that thing there, it's not pretty, but it works and it does the job, so nothing to complain. So they self-seeded, and now with more water and less hot temperatures, the combination of both, I can see that we have a lot more tomatoes than originally I was able to spot. So for example, here in the foreground there are tomatoes that are spreading. So they have now spread all the way up to here. And when I cut free this Palovnia tree, who is still lacking a little bit, but he is coming along now, I almost cut away some of the tomatoes. So now I know that I have to be careful. And for example, even there is a piece of a tomato plant. And also in there. So let's try to zoom in. So there you can see tomato flowers. Not the one in the foreground, which is also yellow, but there in the back. So this place has quite a bit of the tomatoes. Let me loop around. This, by the way, we have when the horses graze here in the farmyard, which they did. And I don't want to take it down. It's off, as you could see. So here is another one that is growing big, and it has flowers. I don't see a tomato yet, but the others do. And this is how it looks like. And see, there's another one. And in there, for example, there are more. And then there are the ones under the tree. So lots of tomatoes here in this patch. Here and there I cut on top of the sun hemp and friends, and that provides some litter that will then turn into soil over time. It covers the ground also, and the important thing are the trees. So they are now on top, and you can see that these leaves are really gigantic. So it looks like we are now in the temperature and humidity range that these trees like, and therefore they look very healthy and have this very fast growth. So for example, that one here right next to me is definitely now taller than me. So I would think 50 centimeter on top of my head it does have. And this is the very first year. So I'm still extremely impressed by the speed by which these Palovnia trees grow. And there in the back you see a green patch. This sprinkler over there behind the chicken coop. We haven't gotten the chicken, but at some point we will. The water flows a little bit away, and therefore this is greener than elsewhere. But you can also see, if I zoom in a bit, that over there it is greening up. This is B3, the area is closed, so the sheep cannot go in there. The 3 horses, who are not blind, they are currently grazing outside this area, so they won't also not go in there. And you can see the vetiver there in the background, which is also growing. It soaks in the last rays of sun that we have. It is warm, so it is definitely in a temperature range that all these heat-loving plants do like. And the sun hemp is now also at the stage, you can see a little bit there, of having flowers and making seed. So here in this makeshift nursery, some of the beans have grown quite a bit, and this morning I took a few out to plant them, and I'm going to show you where. Which is over there, where this trellis is located. And let's see where I best step in. So at the moment I am alone basically, and I do little things that a single human can do. And well, not sure if you were able to spot it, but there are a few frogs in there. I definitely saw them. But of course now they're hiding under the water. So here I planted a few of the beans. There you can see them. And they go all the way to the beginning of this. My intention is to have a green wall. This is an experiment, just because the material was lying around, and why not? And of course this will provide food and also help to add nitrogen to the soil, so is my hope. And now that I'm here, I can also talk about that. And you can also see that this morning I cut quite a bit of this material to basically use it for mulch. There is more that I can cut, and I will do so in a little while, here and there, between other things. But the thing that I wanted to talk about is this. So the okra is a very nice and interesting vegetable. It grows very well during the very hot summer, and it also stays on top of other stuff, which is good. But now most of these seed pods, which is the part that you can eat here, they are now pretty hard, which means they are now seed pods. This is not anymore a vegetable that we humans can eat, because that thing has to be tender, and when it's more woody, then you don't want to chew it. So that means that basically most of them are now for making seeds. Wasn't the intention, but this is the lazy gardener, and when there is other things to do, well, then that's happened. But I do have a lot of okra in the freezer for later, because it would have been nice to stay on top of harvesting, but I didn't, and it's not so big an issue, so I'm not complaining. So the question that is going on in my head is how to proceed here. So as you can see, there is a mix of the Bermuda grass, the okra, and this here, which you guys told me is a sort of a wild spinach, which is also going to seed. So I'm thinking about how to manage this. And it has to be the lazy way, because there's other things to do. So let's not go in the direction of a market garden. Some sort of a grazing animal that is small enough might be helpful. So something like, I guess they are called guinea pigs in English. In German they are called hamster, and it's similar to a rabbit, but it's not a rabbit. So they are known to not dig holes in order to get out, and maybe there is a way to use some sort of a chicken tractor, but then it's impractical with all the okra, so won't fit in here. And probably they also might eat the okra. So I'm extremely unsure, and I have no good idea. But somehow I would like to manage this going forward, and I'm not really sure how. So this is just me thinking aloud, thinking out loud. In general, we need to wait a little bit for bigger things until the trees have grown a bit more. They will need the technical cut. So once they shed their leaves, then it's time for the technical cut. And then the plan is to put in a trellis in a similar way like this, as a fence here on the outside, so along that string, so basically in front of the trees, and then have another one between. And I want to use this for tomatoes and maybe zucchini and other things. So here, by the way, are the other tomatoes. Those tomatoes I seeded, and they develop from seed. And you can see that there They become a little bit yellow and soon red. So there will be quite a bit of tomato to harvest. And my intention is to harvest and then freeze them, because I don't want to eat them raw, but instead use them in other dishes, like a tomato sauce or in an Indian Thai curry and stuff like that. So it doesn't really matter how the texture is, because mushy in that case is good. Therefore, I think I will just harvest and then freeze them. Apparently that works. So that is that. And you see that some of the leaves are not looking very happy. It's not the water, because this gets plenty of water. It's the night temperatures, I think. And from over there we get cold wind, and the combination of all that makes then the leaves go look like this. But here I can definitely show you quite a bit of the sun hemp about to produce seed. So it has flowers. It is now becoming yellow in between all the green. And the vetiver, which is also a heat-loving plant, also has signs of not feeling well, despite the fact that it gets plenty of water. But that is how it goes. It's just the progression of the year. You can see that the color of the vetiver changes. Here you can see it probably a little better. So it becomes like that. And that means I am cold. But it looks pretty. And people do harvest the vetiver and put it in a vase for a few days. Just because of the color. So this is all coming along. No issues. And next year, for spring, we will then do more things on the inside of all that. I am waiting at the moment for all the sun hemp to pass its reproductive state, and then I want to throw the broad beans that we have left over. They are now probably 2 years old. So I want to throw them in there and then cut everything down, and then we will see what will happen. And of course I hold off also because of the rain, because I think that it's smarter to let the roots do their thing while the sun hemp is standing, and then switch to these broad beans once we have more rain. So that is why I'm holding off. The broad beans are there to hopefully fix some nitrogen, so that later on we can plant things that are more valuable to us than just making soil, because this material is mineral, basically. So minerals are good, but it also needs other things, and being almost only minerals, it also means, so sand, that when there is no water, it dries quickly, it drains also extremely quickly, and then it becomes hard as concrete. So it's not really helpful for more sophisticated plants. Therefore, we need to turn the soil into something better before we can actually call this a garden. So right now it is a patch where something is going on, and I also don't mind all the pioneer species that are establishing themselves here. I even water them basically. So that's all fine. But I need to come up with some ideas how to manage this in the longer run. So I guess it's going to be some sort of a food forest with different layers, and probably on the ground there should be a layer of herbs or similar things that will then serve as the herbaceous layer. So the same goes for this here. So this is now behind our temporary house, as you can see, and all this is also looking very nice and tall. So I'm happy how this goes, and it keeps me entertained while we wait for the restrictions that we currently have to disappear. And as you might ask, what restrictions is the guy talking about? Well, it's money, simply put. So all the nice things that we would like to do, they cost some money. And as long as we don't have enough, we have to wait until we do. And there's something in the works. Doesn't matter, so I won't go into details what it is. But once that has become available, then we can start to invest. And these videos that I mentioned that I'm working on, they will explain a little bit more about what that all means. Because this is not a working farm that sells some food product to customers. We don't sell anything, only occasionally. For example, some ham and all that. And all the while we are spending money. And as long as I am not able to spend a lot of money because I have no interesting IT project, things slow down. Of course, the idea is to remove this dependency so that this ecosystem restoration project, which essentially it is, can be more independent from my contributions, my financial contributions. Therefore also some ideas to allow other people to participate in different forms. And all that is what is being worked on behind the scenes. And step by step you will then see more things. And speaking about being able to participate, some of you guys are waiting for me to say, yep, it's ready. We can now start planting those 40,400 trees that we have been promised by in writing from or by Life Terra. So we do have a signed contract. They will show up, but the problem is we are not ready. And therefore I cannot announce it. And it looks like this will move a little bit. So not in November, but maybe we can do this in December. We will see. Because before we can actually start, we need to buy a tool, a BCS tractor, to create the little channels where we then can put in the saplings. And we need to install the irrigation system. We can't plant that many trees in a very small space, hoping that later we can add the irrigation. There will be no way to pass through, and during the summer everything will then die. So we need to do all this before any tree gets planted. So there's again the money thing. And once that's sorted out, we will then have the tools and the material and all that. And then we will prepare the area. And if we miss the December also because things take longer than expected, well, then so be it. The next opportunity is after the frost, which means early March. And we do it then. Doesn't really matter. As long as it happens, and it will. So, now with those impressions of a more advanced stage of all these things here, in between basically two seasons, the warm and the cold part of the year, I will stop this here, publish it quickly so you can see it, and stay tuned for more. It's a little bit irregular, not on a schedule. I will publish things as I have them available. So thanks for watching, and don't go away, there will be more.